And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
It's a common expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. However, what if the horse's mouth is filled with useful insurance tools? This is the exact case with the Geico app. Yes, the app is free and therefore a gift horse. However, look inside the app and behold, emergency roadside assistance, digital ID cards, bill pay. Get the Geico app. Look it in the mouth. Get amazing services. Thank you.
Blog Talk Radio.
Horror enthusiasts and fans of things that go bump in the night, rejoice, as there is a new collection of creepy tales to keep your spine tingling and your blood running cold. The brainchild of prolific author Yvonne Mason. Welcome to Your Nightmare is an anthology of stories from a gifted batch of writers specializing in keeping you up at night. Whether you love gruesome tales of murder and mayhem, or you prefer quaint tales of scary happenings, welcome to Your Nightmare is sure to please the inner psychopath and whet even the most insatiable horror appetite. Welcome to Your Nightmare is available now on Amazon.com.
Well, hello there, all of my listening audience. It is Wednesday night. It is the beginning of another 4-week show. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This is Off the Chain. I'm your host, Yvonne Mason, and yes, boys and girls, that was another piece of shameless promotion. Welcome to Your Nightmare was compiled by me, and it has about 32 writers of short stories, madness, murder, mayhem, you name it, it's in there. So go and get it. And the ad was done by my friend, Chris Dunham, who also has his own radio station. And if you need some ad work, he is the one that you need to go to because he is absolutely magnificent. He does all of my voiceover ads. And also, I have a shout-out from author Andrew Bouchard. He has written a cute little book called The Seduction of Annette Sarkerson. And it goes like this. Annette Sarkerson does not want you to read this book. So if you hate Anita, then why not irritate her by purchasing a copy? It's a book of romance, it's funny, and it's a wild ride. Order it on Amazon. Go check it out. Now, if you want to do a shout-out on my show, go to advertisecast.com and look up for Off the Chain for pricing. I'm very, very cheap, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not in this to make any money. I'm in this to promote y'all. Well, I have to tell you, we're getting closer and closer and closer to 10,000 listeners worldwide. Ran the numbers a few minutes ago, and this show alone is at 3,953 listeners. 3,953 listeners just on this show. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, our most ardent supporter is not the U.S. It is Australia. They are 2-1 to us. We get 66% of our listeners from Australia. And guys from down under, thank you. I appreciate y'all so, so much. In fact, on March the 6th, I'm going to have some of your homeboys on my show, the Tercey Brothers. They are going to be here. They sing blues, they sing soul, and they are a combination of Otis Redding, Johnny Lang, Eric Clapton, Johnny Lee Hooker, Robert Johnson, Van Morrison, all rolled into one. If you have not heard these guys, you need to check out the show on March the 6th because they are absolutely, they make me tap dance and clap my hands while I'm sitting at my desk. They remind me of old school blues and soul. So put that on your calendars, March the 6th. Now, tonight, my guest, she's been on this calendar for months now. I set her up right when we first started this show because I feel like that we need someone like her as a regular on the show. And the reason for that is we have become a world of overweight people. And I don't mean it in a negative way, but we have. And it can be due to health, it can be due to metabolism, it can be due to a lot of things. But if you're not happy where you are, or if you're not happy with your weight, then my guest tonight and I are going to talk about this. Annette Love-Hatton is my guest, and this is what she says. Many of you in our listening audience fight an ongoing battle with weight gain, weight loss. She has fought this battle of the bulge all of her life. So she knows the yo-yo pain of losing weight only to gain it back and more. By the time Annette was in her early 60s, she topped the scales at just under 700 pounds. Now at age 70 so far, Annette has lost 300 pounds. Annette has authored several books: A Sneaky Cook's Cookbook, The M&M Diet, Fast for Change, T-Grid to Success, FacErcise, Breathometrics. She says they're currently out of print and have been for decades, but she has obtained the original manuscripts and plans to use the information for a group that she is starting. Welcome, Annette. Thank you so much for giving me an hour of your time. I am very honored and grateful that you're willing to do this for our audience.
Well, I'm tickled you asked me, and hello down under. How are you folks down there?
Isn't it marvelous? 66% of our listening audience is Australia.
I'll be dipped. That's a good percentage.
It's amazing. I love it. Before we talk about the meat of the matter, would you share with the audience your journey, your own personal journey? And as we talked before the show, you can go as far back as you want to, because it is your story to tell. And this hopefully will encourage and inspire and aspire others and help them understand that it's not something they have to fight alone.
I don't know exactly where to begin, but I think personally my journey began when I was still being carried by my mother. She tried to abort me, and I have felt her wrath until the day she died. And I hid from her behind my weight. My stepfather was a pedophile, and I hid behind my weight. And the family situation was such that I hid behind my weight. And I realized somewhere along the line when I started turning, 60 or so, that I had become my mother, who was grossly overweight. And I had become my mother. And I began my spiritual journey to find who I was, regardless of who she was, to find who I was, regardless of who my stepfather was, and to find my biological father. And that has helped me discover who I am. Does that answer your question, kind of?
Well, yeah. Would it be fair to say that hiding behind your weight in your mind and in your soul, because not feel loved and to be afraid of someone that's supposed to protect you, your weight in your mind made you invisible?
Yes. Yes, there's no other way to answer that, but yes. It's used by a lot of people, the abused woman syndrome. They will often gain weight because they want to become invisible. They do not want to be raped any further. There's a lot of women who, once they're raped, gain weight, and they can't take it off.
Go ahead, sweetheart.
No, you go ahead. I'm finished.
Do you think that it also makes, I think what I'm trying to say is, if they gain the weight, especially in the situation that you were in, and you and I talked briefly, my sister was hurt by a man, and by being emotionally hurt by a man, she gained a lot of weight because she didn't want to be attractive. Do you think that women also use that tool to protect themselves from any emotional attachments for fear of being hurt?
Yes. I think men can be put into this category too, because men, after all, are human, although we sometimes wonder about it, but they do have a tendency to also put on weight because of fear of rejection. So the human race as a whole, they have poor eating habits, they have low self-esteem, they have no self-esteem, and it becomes, until somebody says enough, it'll keep going. I think that's why there are so many people who, like me, tip the scales pushing 700-800 pounds. 1,500 pounds, I think, is the largest woman. It's just an ongoing problem that unless we as an individual take responsibility for our actions in our lives, it'll continue to grow. We'll grow fat. We'll grow fatter. But there's that dreaded awe.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that sometimes because of the environment someone grows up in, or the stigma of a relationship gone to hell in a breadbasket, or whatever is going on in someone's life, that number one, they decide that they're not worthy because, as you say, they lose their self-esteem. And so in losing the self-esteem, they find comfort in food and non-exercise and sedentary activities. Would that be a proper statement?
I think so, yes. The weight gain and weight loss is such a complex, and people hide their feelings behind their weight. They hide their fears behind their weight, and it can literally become a wall, and this will keep them from developing good relationships with spouses. This will help prevent them from good relationships with their children. And the sad thing is sometimes they pass this on to their children. But again, we come back to a lot of emotion goes into weight gain. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
Yes, it makes perfect sense, because it starts out without forethought. And I don't think anyone consciously goes into that mode saying to themselves, I'm just going to get overweight and fat so that nobody will think I'm pretty, or I won't think I'm pretty, or I won't think I'm handsome, and nobody will want me. I don't think anybody consciously goes into that train of thought. It's a self-abuse to me is what it amounts to. It's a self-abuse, and that person just slowly convinces themselves that they're not worthwhile, they're not pretty or handsome, they have nothing to offer, they have nothing to offer themselves, so if they have nothing to offer themselves, how can they offer anything to anybody else?
Exactly. You reminded me of a line in Pretty Woman. Julia Roberts says, you think I started out wanting to be a prostitute? No, circumstances and fears. I was running away. And she went through this with Richard Gere, and I thought how appropriate it is for a fat woman or a fat man to say the same thing. We don't start out going, oh, I want to weigh 300 pounds by the time I'm 15 years old.
Right.
That's not what happens. What happens is, let's say, for me, in elementary school, all the kids picked on me because, A, I'm Native American, German, but I was overweight. And they would not let me play with them. As a matter of fact, the boys liked to get me in the bathroom and rape me. So I was not allowed to play on the playground. I had to stick my nose in a corner all during playground. And if I got out, they beat me up. I didn't start out wanting to be fat. I wanted to be loved by my peers. And all I did was get hurt. So I learned if I'm fat, they'll leave me alone. I can go stick my nose in the corner.
But
go ahead.
What is so sad and so wrong is you were punished for something you had no control over.
No, not at that time. Not at 10, 12, 13 years old. No. I didn't really, I think I figure the age of accountability, it varies from people to people, but legally it's 18 years old. So at 18 years old, you have a choice. And that's when you start, a person starts making their own choices in life. And their parents are no longer legally responsible. But
if the people, the children that were abusing you in school should have been punished, not you. You shouldn't have been made to sit in a corner during recess because of their behavior.
This was back in the 50s. I mean, back then, I'm dyslexic, and they didn't even know what that word was. They had no idea at that time what child abuse was. I graduated high school in 1964, and I had a child when I was almost 12 years old. So it's like society did not have the knowledge that we have now. If I had grown up in the 80s or the 90s, oh my goodness, would DYS and all these agencies been down my butt, my parents' back.
So again, we're back to this same thing we started out with, that because of the environment, sadly, you became a product of the environment because you really didn't have any resources, or who at 12 years old understands how to take control of their own life? I don't know a child out there that does. Because, number one, you don't have the mental capacity, and number two, you don't have the wisdom.
There's a lot who think they do.
Well, that's true.
I walked all over you.
Exactly. And
it boils my blood.
Mine too. So what happens is gaining weight became an armor for you.
Yes, and it's that way with a lot of people. What I advocate is there's nobody in this world take control and tell me what to do except me. And if I allow someone to come in and say, you shouldn't have that piece of cake, or the one I hate the worst is, you'd be so pretty if you weren't so fat.
Oh, no, they don't.
They do not know what harm they do to people, but it's up to me to take control of me and not them. If they want to shake their finger, let them shake their finger. It rolls off my back. almost. I still get affected by it.
Well-meaning friends and family will do that rather than just accepting the person they say they care about, warts and all, weight and all, and just being a support when that person comes to them without negative input. You know, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out.
I think the key word here is support. They think they're supporting, and in fact, they are not.
No.
They are being detrimental.
And they're enabling that person even further. It's like a drug addict. You know, you go bail a drug addict out of jail, you go bail a drunk out of jail, or you put them in rehab for 30 days and then put them back in the same environment, and you keep doing it over and over. It becomes a pattern, and you've enabled that person. And that's when people make when people make statements like they made to you, that's enabling you not to want to do anything because you're going to become invisible even more.
There's called codependency.
Correct.
And Bradshaw talks about that, and he was probably, I've searched this my entire life, and Bradshaw helped me touch one of my inner children, and there's been a lot of those aha moments, and with Bradshaw that was one of them. But to break the cycle, it's not up to my dad to break the cycle. It's not up to my mother, both of which are dead. It's not up to them. It's up to me to break the cycle within me. So I cannot blame it on the people who are shaking their finger at me and saying codependent words, but I can say step away from them and let those people fall out of my life. I do not have to put up with them. And to do that is probably, obese people are in a dichotomy. They want the love, and they'll do anything for the love. It's like an abused woman in a relationship and they'll keep coming back for more because that's the only way I could get love was to eat myself stupid and be fat, and then I got attention. So then we turn around, and what do we do now? We're 700 pounds, we're 800 pounds, and we're hurting. We haven't changed anything until we make that change within ourselves, whatever it is, and address the fears, the problems, then the weight's going to be there. That's what I feel. Would it be a fair statement, Annette, to say that it is like a triangle? I'm passionate. You have to, it's spiritual, it's mental. Well, it's actually a box. It's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional, and it's physical. And all four of those have to be in sync in order to take that, to break out of that pattern. Isaac Asimov did a pyramid where he said, this is, I'm not sure what he called it, but it's a pyramid where you have to have these things before you can emotionally grow to the next level. And it's a pyramid of about 7 or 8. And there's a lot of heavy people stuck between 1 and 2. They can't get off the first level because they are so emotionally drained of love, of attention, of even anybody listening to them without condemning them. There was a group that taught me about active listening, and that is what most people do not know. They have a tendency, like I do, to, what am I going to say next? Instead of listening to what Yvonne says, I go, what am I going to say next? And that's one of the problems, and that's Isaac Asimov with the emotionality that you're talking about. Very true. And in order to be a good conversationalist,
one must understand how to listen, not just hear, but to, don't worry about what we're going to say next to answer the question, but to really listen and let the words sink in, and then the answers come. Would that be a fair statement?
Well, yes, it would be. And I think it goes beyond that. How many people do you run into, and I can think of 3 in my immediate life, that come in and say, you come in and you say, well, I have my mouse sitting next to me, and I wrote this article. What do you think about it? And they go, well, I'm off over here cooking for the Rosebud people up that are fighting the pipeline. And what they're saying is, I don't care what you say. I asked, even though you asked for my help, what I'm concerned with is what I want to do. And they're caught up in what I call the me, myself, and I. And I've been there. I know that walk. And to break from that walk to actively listening to what Yvonne has to say is a difficult thing to do. And that was the basis of one of my books called Fast, that you can do. They're non-food fasts. They're how to grow by fasting things. You want an example?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, gossip is one of my pet peeves. I've seen more people ruined by gossip. Mostly it's lies. So to fast, to break a habit, it takes 21 days. So I go, why not 28 days to make sure it's done? So I want to break fasting in my spiritual life. So I quit gossiping about people, quit talking about them, quit thinking bad things about them. The minute I break that fast, it might be an hour from now, it might be a week, but I restart the fast until I can go a full 28 days without thinking or talking gossipy words about anyone. And then you continue it the rest of your life. It becomes part of your life. So
it becomes a new pattern.
That is, yes, exactly. So I called it fasting, and it's non-food fasting. It's something that we don't have to fast food. We can fast emotional problems. We can fast not being codependent.
So would it be safe to say? Would it be safe to say that this would be a key component for someone who has made up their mind that they want to change their entire life from their weight to their spiritual to their emotional to their mental, and that could put them on the road to being healthier by learning how to get less overweight one step at a time?
Exactly. You said it well, extremely well. We have in this life, or this awakening, we have a path that we walk. And I think obesity, for me, it might not be for anybody else, but for me, obesity kept my mind off of that walk. And it will, fasting, I have a lot of little games that I play that can help people, but the whole of everything comes down to becoming the person, Creator, God, the universe wants us to be. Regardless of where we are, we have to be true to that path. And some people don't even know where the path is.
That is true.
And I had to find my path.
Because did you or did you not at one time not listen to the inner being that not
Exactly.
Personally, and again, I'm talking personal experience, ladies and gentlemen, and personal feelings. Our inner being, also known as our soul, knows our path.
Yes, yes.
And we don't listen to it because our soul comes from God, and God is all-knowing. God has the big picture, but sometimes we are so busy trying to tell God we know better that we don't listen to the soul.
Well, there's the other side of the equation, what you believe. I've always told people there are two professions you don't put together. One is a career Marine, and the other is a preacher. And my stepfather was both. So I learned Bible, very fundamentalistic Bible, basically with a belt and abuse. So to the point where when I turned away from God and I sought different, I've been into Sufi, and I've been into witchcraft, and I've been into a lot of different religions and philosophies and thinking. And when I came to find my Native American ways, I was home. I could feel it. And I don't walk the path of the normal Lakota native. I walk my path that God has taught me through 60, 80, almost 80 years now, 70 years of teaching me. And it's all come around to I know my path, I think.
Well, if you don't, the higher being, if you let him in, is going to help you walk it. Because we don't walk it alone.
Yes.
If we pay attention, he's going to help us because he wants us to walk the path he's picked for us. But because we're free will agents, we kind of veer from it.
Well, sometimes the path, it's like I equate it to being a tapestry. Sometimes you and I walk the same side-by-side type path, and then we diverge. But in the same thing in our life, sometimes we got our nose pointed towards that rainbow at the end of the tunnel when God wants us to go, oh, let's go a little bit over here to the right, you know, and we learn. Life is a continual learning. So what we think might be our path, and we're going to be stuck on it, I'm safe, I'm not going one way or the other, and Creator says, you're going to walk over here a couple steps. And to me, that's what part of life is.
And that is very true. That is, you are very, very true in that, because we don't learn without trials and tribulations. Sure, we can, as you say, head towards that rainbow with nothing to get in our way, and life is merry, and it's poppy seeds and flowers and unicorns. But what have we learned?
What did you? Yeah, where is the first little hurdle that you forgot to jump over?
Right. Do you deserve that rainbow? What did you do to earn it? What did you do to grow? Nothing.
I think that's where we're. Yeah, I think that's where we kind of go with the spirituality of weight loss. That is your path for weight loss. And really, according to your picture, you look pretty good, kid. But
thank you.
I look more like my bear. But we each have different physiologies, different backgrounds, psychologies, things that went in. So what works for me might not work for you, but at the same time, here are some other suggestions. And we ultimately take responsibility for that path that we walk.
And that is very true, because there's all these fad diets out there. There's the no meat diet, the high protein diet, the shake diet, the this diet, the that diet. Well, we're not in cookie cutters. Number one, our metabolism is different. Our health issues may be different. We may have to be sedentary because we can no longer walk. My husband is sedentary. He can't walk. He's an insulin-dependent diabetic. He only has 2 valves working in his heart, and he has acute COPD as well as high blood pressure. So he is now sedentary, which drives him crazy. And he has
I can tell you how to help that.
That would be
Go
good.
ahead.
Send me some. But
one of the things that I do, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, sweetheart, no, go
Not
ahead.
listening.
Go ahead. Yes, you are. Go ahead.
One of the books that I'm writing right now is I Am in My Tribe. I Am a Medicine Woman. And although, long story, I say it's the diary or it's a sneaky warrior's cookbook. It's basically herbal remedies and cooking so that your family doesn't know that you're feeding them healthy foods. If you want to help your husband, I can send you all that stuff.
Sweet.
But I'm at 700 pounds, I should be diabetic. But the Native Americans throughout North and South America eat nopals to kill diabetes. And nopals is that cactus that looks like your hand. Doctors are beginning to understand that if they have a person who's having a heart attack, what they do is they make a little cayenne pepper in water tea, warm tea, and they feed it to, or let the person who's having a heart attack drink it, and the heart attack will stop within 30 seconds. So the idea is, if you have heart problems, to eat cayenne pepper. And that's where this thing with my weight loss clinic that I'm starting here, that is also part of the healing process, because the physiology, when you start losing weight, there are a whole lot of issues that come up, like arthritis, heart problems. Your body fights that fat coming off of you, and it holds a lot of toxins in that fat. So what you brought up with your husband is so very true. So how do we protect ourselves from that? And that's where, when Creator made me a long-standing medicine woman, I learned all those things, probably from infancy or maybe another lifetime. But this has got to be addressed too, because so we don't get sick.
Yes.
That makes. And there's where your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, your emotions, it's all tied up together.
Would it be fair to say, because I've seen it in people, like you say, the fat holds toxins. So when one becomes overweight, it strains the pancreas, the liver, the lungs, the heart, the circulatory system, the other
point.
little. Go ahead.
I asked, I don't remember who it was, but he was one of those physician-type doctors, and I said, with my weight, I have a lot of toxins, and when I was younger, we used roach spray and sprays and DDT, and I said, does it really kill a person when they start losing weight? And he said almost exactly what you said, plus he said, yes, it can kill the body. So when we start losing fat, we can literally kill our bodies, and there are ways to prevent that. Again, this goes in with the Lord making me a medicine woman and learning about it. And there's a lot of people talking about this very issue about healthy eating. And it's true, but more so for the person who is losing more than 50 pounds of weight.
Because the old adage is true. We are what we eat. And all of the chemicals and all of the toxins that they put into our food to make it grow faster, ripen faster, so they can make a better bottom dollar, is destroying us because we eat it. They put growth hormones in chickens and in cows and in pigs so they can get them to market faster. Well, that goes into our system.
Yes. They also put steroids in all that you named to make them fatter.
Yes, and what does it do? We have 6-year-old girls with boobs the size of Marilyn Monroe's. That's wrong on so many levels.
Dolly Parton would be proud of what you just said. Oh, God. That's true.
But it is true.
I know that's true. I also think that's why we have multiple births, because of the hormones they put in chicken, which is basically the staple of most diets, even the ones down in Australia.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe they go ahead.
Now, you have is your group up and running? Or
not
are you
really.
Putting it on?
They have the building. We have a building that was a historical monument, and there have been repeated efforts to revitalize it, and this one group took it over, very affluential in this area, Martin County, and it looks like, but they have to keep issues. First, they had to put toilets in there. Can you believe this building was built without toilets? Then they had to put handicap parking. Now they have to put an elevator.
If it was built in the 1920s, I can believe it.
You can believe it. But anyway, so they have a lot of issues, and it looks like it's going to be June before I get my support group up and running. But I'm glad you brought that up. I figured out a way to help a lot of people. Is that I have a friend who has friends up in whatever state she is in, the North Country, and she has 6 church friends who want to join my group. So I said, get them together, and if there's 10 there, that's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm charged $20 an hour, and it takes about 2 hours to go through one session, because everybody's got to have their say. And I'd like to, and I think $20 or $40, 5 people, 10 people can come up with that without straining the budget. So I do it over the telephone. Just put me on speakerphone. You mentioned Skype. I don't do Skype. I don't know how to hook it up, and quite truthfully, I really don't want to. I would rather do it over the telephone. I still have that problem with what I look like. See, I still have my issues.
You are a beautiful woman, Annette. You are absolutely.
And don't you say, if you'd only lose weight, I'll get you.
No, ma'am. There's no caveats. You are a beautiful woman, period.
Well, I got a few bags hanging off from under my arms, and that's one of the issues I'd really like to research and find out about, which is how to get rid of some of this fat, the flab that hangs off from losing a lot of weight. They call it, surgery, and it's phenomenally out of price. And so anyway, that's one of the issues that I want to address and research. So if anybody out there in the listening audience has any suggestions, look me up on Facebook.
So let me ask you this. Say someone from our listening audience who's in the continental United States wants to contact you. They would need to look you up on Facebook and send you a message and say, yeah, I want to get a group of people together And you would be willing to do that with them, right?
Yes, and it also works in Australia because I have a couple Australian friends who are in my tribe. They're Lakota, and maybe even one that wants to be. But we converse back and forth quite regular. So I'm assuming, since I can talk to the Australians, that this would also be, Facebook would be worldwide. I don't know if that's a true statement or not, but it could well be, as long as you speak English, because I don't speak anything but Southern English.
So how would they find you on Facebook?
Okay, my name is Annette Love-Hatton, and then I'm the one with the bear, the white bear, as the face, the identifier, and my Native American name is spelled Mathoska. It means white bear.
Wow.
My biological father named me White Bear.
I like that.
And for those of you down under that don't know what a Lakota is, it's loosely translated Sioux. We take them scalps. That's a good way to lose weight quickly. Scalp you guys.
Now, let me ask you this. Would you recommend bypass surgery for someone who is overweight? Because we know that, and I have seen this with friends of mine who had the bypass surgery, that they lose all the weight after they've had the bypass surgery, and then they, for a little while, they eat like they're supposed to, and then all of a sudden they're ballooning slowly back up. To me, that would seem dangerous.
I have a cousin that went under the knife that way, and she's maintained her weight for almost 40 years, low weight. She says the biggest problem she has is she carries about 150 pounds of loose skin.
Uh-huh.
That's what I want to really research and address. Now, I'm not going to say that it's wrong, and I'm not going to say that it's right. What I'm going to say is, if that's what the person wants, that's what the person needs to do. But you're right about one thing. You really need to stick to that diet if that's what you're going to, the bypass surgery is what you're going to do. Really stick to the diet. It's like liposuction. If you don't keep the weight off and that you've sucked all the fat cells out, fat comes back on in some of the strangest places. So it's, and I look at it this way. For me, I can't mess with what God gave me. As much as I'd like to do bypass surgery, right now I couldn't have it because I would be at a risk of not waking up from the anesthesia.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm still overweight by about 300 pounds. Well, not quite that much, maybe 150. But anyway, I'm sitting here doing the math, and I'm going, don't think down those roads. So if a person does whatever they have to do to make them feel right, but where I come from is until they deal with the other issues, the weight's probably going to come back on. So even with bypass surgery or liposuction or however it is, until the person deals with the other issues, it's probably going to come back on.
Would it be a safe statement to say that when one makes up their mind that they no longer want to be overweight,
it's a long road.
It is a long road, but would it also be a smart move to find a counselor that they
yes.
can connect with in order to, and no matter what anybody says, we all have this habit of dragging our past with us into the present because it's like a comfort zone or a blanket or something. We can't leave it back there. We got to keep dragging it with us like a ball and chain. But if they could find a counselor that they could come to terms with it, know they can't change their past, it doesn't define who they are, it was just a defining moment in their life, and they leave it back there in the past, and they start off with a clean slate, it might be easier to adjust to the weight loss, the change in the mentality, the spiritual, the emotional, the mental, until it all sinks into the right path. Would that be a proper conjecture?
To a point. I think for some people, yes. For other people, there are post-traumatic syndrome, stress syndrome from the abuse. There's so many different issues here. What we might need is like a 12-step program. I've been in Weight Watchers. I've been in TOPS. I've been in a lot of different groups. And I find so far none of them, never been in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I find none of them have that compassion for the obese, 50 pounds or over obese person. There's a lot of issues that they take with them. So if you have a support group, I think you make sure you know who the leader is and make sure that they're loving and kind and caring. Same thing with a counselor. A counselor will help a lot with some of the issues, but there are some issues that will not be addressed. I've been to counselors, and they have their own issues. So,
True.
Again, it comes back to, I don't know if you remember way back when we were in that meeting together, I was going to a psychologist to help me with the weight issue, and he told my story to the people in that meeting. I don't know if you were there at that time. And that embarrassed the daylights out of me.
Why would he do that?
He broke my confidence.
Yes, he did, and that is wrong.
I would say it comes close to being a PETA.
If he wanted to do that, he should have gotten your permission and made sure that it was okay with you, because that was not his story to tell. That's why when I start my shows, just like tonight, and you said, how far back do you want me to go? And I said, it's your story to tell. You go back as far as you want to, because it's not my story. I don't know what you're comfortable talking about. And if I make you feel uncomfortable, then the radio show's not successful. You go away feeling rejected, unfulfilled, and embarrassed and humiliated. And that was not the purpose of the show. So he should have, as a counselor, he should have understood that. Yes, and he almost lost his license over it. But that was an example of people are sometimes they're so wrapped up in their codependency, in their control issues, that we don't get what we want. So if anybody goes to a counselor or anyone goes to a person or a support group, maybe what they need to do is check these people out. I went to a support group because of a situation, doesn't need to be mentioned, and they kicked me out. What?
And I'm like, what? Yeah, and I'm like, what? And it really humiliated me. So be careful where you, listening audience, be careful where you go to seek this, because sometimes after I was kicked out and after this psychologist, psychoanalyst did what they did, I went on an eating binge. And this is counterproductive. So I've heard some bad tales about 12-step programs. So be careful where you go to seek help. And sometimes one person can be a mentor. Sometimes 2 or 3 people can be your mentor. It doesn't have, just make sure that they're loving and they listen to you. And they're not more, they're more concerned.
Without being codependent.
Yeah, without trying to tell you what, you shouldn't be eating that piece of cake. Chocolate cake.
I'm so stubborn and mean, I'd have probably said, okay, if I shouldn't have been eating it, I'd have just mashed it in their face.
Well, no. Chocolate cake, flour, sugar, water, eggs, milk, breakfast. Flour.
Breakfast of champions. I mean, really?
Toast.
I eat
eggs,
cake for breakfast.
Milk. Why not eat cake for breakfast?
Yeah, Bill Cosby says that's breakfast. It has all the breakfast food groups in it, except for bacon.
That's exactly who I got it from. That's exactly. So eat chocolate, Marie Antoinette. Eat chocolate. No, let it be cake.
Well, believe it or not, we have about a minute and a half left.
Is that all? Yvonne, it's been absolute fun.
Well, I am so glad that you came. And when she says, we're going to go off air in about 9 seconds, hang on, because we'll do some after talking in the archives. And when the archives goes up, it'll people that hear the archives can hear it. But I have some instructions for you after. But I am so honored and so humbled and so grateful that you told your story, because you may help one person. And I want you to come back, because when you come back, I think we'll open up the phone lines and let people call in and ask questions if they want to.
I love it when I field questions. I am at my best. So bring them on.
We'll set it up maybe for, I'm not sure if I'm booked up for June yet, but if I'm booked up for June, we'll bring you back in July and open up the phone lines, and we'll start promoting it real soon so that people can put it on their calendars so that they can call in, because there's people out there that have questions. And once the show goes up into archives and they listen to the show, they're going to want to talk to you. Yeah,
I would. I'm so hyped up right now. If you wanted to put me in as a filler, I would take it.
Okay.
I am so hyped up right now.
Well, I am tickled to death. This is marvelous, ladies and gentlemen. My guest tonight was Annette Love-Hatton, and she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. She is absolutely gorgeous. I'm telling you, and there's no caveat. This is a gorgeous, beautiful, spiritual woman who I am so honored to have been associated with all these years. And I do appreciate her coming on tonight and telling her story. Tomorrow night, I have another author. His name is Kim Hemphill. And you do not want to miss this show, because this man's story will break your heart. Literally break your heart. I say this at every show, ladies and gentlemen. This world is made up of dreamers. Without the dreamers, we would not have electricity. We would not have running cars. We would not have music, books, artwork. We would not have houses, probably, or electricity or newspapers. We would still be living in caves and dragging women around by the head of the hair. So be a dreamer, but while you're a dreamer, make that dream real. Don't let someone else control you. As Annette says, you have your own path to walk. It is your path, and they can't steal that path or that dream from you without your permission. And just like she says, when they tell her, don't eat that piece of cake, you don't let anybody tell you, don't eat that piece of cake, don't write that book, don't paint that picture, and don't do that piece of music. If you want to be a garbage collector, don't let anybody talk you out of it, because it's your dream. And they can't steal it without your permission. So tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here Author Kim Hemphill will be with us. I will be bringing Annette back. I've got her so wound up now. You may see her flying off into space because she's so excited. So until tomorrow night, this is Off the Chain. This is Yvonne Mason. Love each other. Okay, we are now off the air. And what will happen, Annette, as soon as you and I get off the air, I get off the phone, the show will start archiving. And once it archives, I'm going to put the link on my page, and I'm going to tag you in it. And you can repost it everywhere for people to listen to. I'm also going to post it in SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Spreaker, Podcast, and Podcast Garden. This show will wind up on iTunes, YouTube, FM.com, and TuneIn Radio and Stitcher.
YouTube?
So, all of those,
wow.
Yes, ma'am.
I love it.
So it will be heard everywhere. And when I put it up on those 5 podcasts I just mentioned, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Podcast, and Podcast Garden, I will put the links on my page and tag you in them. So you use this as a tool to help others achieve their goals and to help you become even more beautiful.
Way back when we didn't go into it, but one of the things that my mother did was she literally beat me to death one time, several times, but that's beside the point. The one time she did, I went up and I talked to God, and he said, "You've got to go back." And I said, "I don't want to go back. I want to stay here with you." And he said, "No, you have a path, and you will teach people." And I have been looking for this path for a long time, and I think this is my path. It took almost 70 years to find it.
I think you're right.
And I think this is where I'm supposed to be, helping people, like you said, lose their weight. I may never lose all of my weight, but I know the pain. And between you and me, I guess, and whoever listens to the podcast, I think this probably goes back to previous awakenings, which some people would call reincarnations. But we have one path to walk, but we have several awakenings to walk it. And quite truthfully, I think this is my walk. And it has been my walk for several awakenings.
And you could be very right.
And that's another thing is in these groups, people cannot judge, "Oh, that's not Bible," or "That's not in the whatever." People are at different places in their spiritual, their development. So what's right for one person, it may not be right for the other.
Because they're not there yet.
Right. So some people, these ladies that I'm going to be working with that are Baptists, they're going to be a very religious, biblical type of people. And I've got to let them know up front that that's not necessarily what I'm going to be talking about.
But I think they will be able to relate to it, Annette, because whether we're Baptist, Methodist, and it took me a long time to learn this, whether we're Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran, Catholic, non-denominational, Native American,
people of the universe,
we worship a common creator. Now, if you want to call it God, if you want to call it Mother Earth,
I agree with you.
We worship a common creator because we have that belief that a common creator gave us our souls and created the earth and put us here for a purpose.
Yes.
And if you approach it that way, it will open their mind that while you don't teach Bible
principles, biblical principles.
right.
I teach principles. Yeah. I hope the people down in Australia didn't get upset.
Nah. And when we can accept someone else with their core beliefs, then and when we can open our minds to listen to what they have to say, it's so enlightening. I may not believe everything the Seventh-day Adventists have to say, but I'm willing to listen to them because they have a core belief, and that core belief is God.
The key factor in what you're talking about is judging. We listen without judging.
Exactly.
And that's what part of that Toastmasters never taught us was active listening is being non-judgmental. And
I think you're going to do fine.
I know I'm going to do fine because I do believe this is the mission that God has given me.
And I think those ladies will be very open-minded and very willing to listen.
Yes. The one thing we didn't touch on is the Lord has, Creator has given me the ability to interpret dreams and actually do readings on people. And I never thought that would be one of my abilities or talents, but it seems like I'm right there. So it all goes back to this is my walk, and Creator, the universe, has given me what I need to do it. And He may give me some more down the road.
He will,
right now,
because the Bible teaches that if we use our talents, that we're blessed with more talents. If we bury our talents, then we lose them all.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that I was talking about. We go off the road just a little bit, not off the road, just take a little variance in the road, and we find these other talents, and we continue on from there.
I just think it is a scavenger hunt of life.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Feel free to use it. Write that down and feel free to plagiarize it.
Have you read anything I've put on that Pounds Away? I didn't mention Pounds Away.
No, I have not. I haven't even been on that page. I didn't. Send me that link so I can go like that page.
All you got to do is when you link into my page, type in that little square, Pounds Away. Pounds Away is the one I'm working on now, and Pounds Away with Love is probably going to wind up being my cookbook.
Sweet.
But Pounds Away,
you're coming back. You're definitely coming back. It's a given. So just when I send you the date, just put it on your little calendar.
Okay. You got me so fired up, girl. I haven't been this fired up since, actually, I've never been this fired up and happy over something like this.
Then my job here is done. I am excited for you.
I can say thank you.
Well, you're quite welcome.
I can say
thank you.
Can I, when we talk on another show, can I plug my son's book, because it was one of my catalysts too?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yeah. Plug it right here because people that listen in archives will hear it, and then we'll plug it when you come back on the show too. What's the name of his book?
His name is Newton Love, and his book is called How the Strong Survive.
There you
It's
go,
a
ladies
mystery.
and gentlemen.
It's a mystery. Oh, that's right. We're still recording.
Uh-huh.
And it was about his path, his beginning path of learning to be a Lakota medicine man. But what he does, the storyline, it's the first book he's ever had published. But anyway, the storyline is about 5 women who are raped by a serial rapist who hides behind whatever. I'm not going to ruin the book. And it's how they reclaim their power. And anyone out there who is a victim of rape knows that what power we have given up. And reclaiming that power is one of the steps an obese person has to have.
Sweet.
Especially if they've been raped.
Well, you will have to put that in your notes. It will, and I've got it down, too, to bring up when we do another show. So let me get off of here and go see what dates I've got open. I'll send you a message to see if that time and date is good for you, and we'll get it set up for a second show with call-ins.
Love you, and thank you for the opportunity. Love all you people out there in Radio Land, especially the ones down in Australia.
There you go. So, my darling, I am glad you're fired up. Finish your books and let's rock and roll.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to you later, darling.
Talk to you later.
Good night.
Yo, everybody get up! Everybody get up! Everybody needs to understand that I'm more than simply a hype man for this rap group. Just like Geico is more than just a company that can save you money. Geico also has fast and friendly claim service, so they can help you when you need it most. And while I do love being a hype man, I also love reading for children's audiobooks. Like Little Bo Peep, she lost a sheep, and she don't know where to find them. Yo!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.